I swear I was going to go to Burning Man today. But I drove a little bit past Sacramento and I felt so horrible about like not seeing my nephews and my brother, and I don't know, I got sad, and now I'm still in the Hilton. I checked out so that I don't have to pay for a second night, but I got a chance to do laundry. I met Linda from some sort of Dave and Buster's play and talked about cognitive, development of her brain and whatever, and like traveling all the time. And, then I met Mark and Gina, kind of boomer generation. Linda was like Gen Z, solid. Sarah, the people at the coin operated laundry. So anyway, I'm still here talking about the metaverse and all that shit. I'm sorry, what's the acronym?
The company, the acronym is EG&G, and it's the three men, Egerton, Gersheimer, and Greer.
Got it. Okay.
And they were contemporaries of Hewlett and Packard,
What decade?
1940s and 50s.
Okay. And Hewlett Packard are 60s and 70s, and then Jobs and Gates are 70s and 80s and 90s, and
Right.
now Zuckerberg and Sandberg and Bezos are 2000s and 10s, and Kirby is what? Like, where am
I'm
I?
not sure who. Oh, well, where are you? Where are you in this? Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
TBA, like it's to be determined. I genuinely, I'm not asking, I'm just saying it's now a relevant question because I built something as a creative. I built it as a theater fag,
Are you casting yourself in the role of Odysseus, and these guys are Polyphemus?
Okay, so who's Polyphemus?
Polyphemus is the Cyclops. And
He
captured
I didn't read that book.
He captured the crew of Odysseus,
Right.
or Ulysses.
Right.
And when he asked Odysseus his name, he said his name is No Man. And when he was shouting, the other Cyclopses said, "What is happening, Polyphemus?" And he said, "No man is hurting me." And then they said, "Well, if no man is hurting you, why are you bothering us?" And they all went to bed.
Right. Okay.
And that's how Odysseus tricked Polyphemus. So,
okay, Mark, you and I have sat for at least over an hour with your sister Gina in a Hilton that we are both banished to. So, who am I? Besides just Charles Kirby, like who am I in that? How am I casting myself?
Well, I don't know.
But you could suppose, for the purposes of my blog, you could suppose. Just because you know the story, you know the Odyssey and the Iliad and Prufrock better than I do.
The character.
Oh, don't forget about Dante. You have to include Dante. So I could be any of them.
Virgil.
Right.
Are you?
I don't know. I'm just not. I don't read.
Oh.
Because my mother is a history and art major. I mean, PhD, whatever you want to call it. And when she was doing a dual master's, so my parents met at Southern Methodist University. And my mom was a freshman and my dad was a senior. They met on the student council. My mom walked in and my dad said, "I need a date to his buddy, his Fiji brother, who was the president." He said, "I need a date for the dance. Who's the smartest girl in the room?" And his buddy pointed to my mom. My maternal grandmother then said, my maternal grandfather then choked on a lobster and died of alcoholism. My maternal grandmother said, my dad then stepped in as the dad of the sort of man of the family or whatever in Memphis and Dallas, and he said, my grandmother said, "Nancy, you can marry him, but only after you get your teaching degrees set up." So my mother got a master's in history and English, history and English at the same time. And when you ask my mother, how did she do that and so fast or whatever, she says, "Oh, I just took the number of pages that were assigned and I just divided it by the number of days in the semester, and it was about 1,300. So I just read 1,300 pages a day." And I have a genuine panic attack. I mean, I am, and it leads directly to her throwing a typewriter on the kitchen table and saying, "You're gonna type these college essays," and my 9th grade teacher, Mrs. Campbell, putting Les Miserables on the table as if it was like the freaking Bible, and I just literally was like, I'm not going to consume this content in books anymore. It's just not. I'm done with that. So I didn't read the Odyssey, but I listened to everything, every audiobook I needed to, and podcasters were one of my favorite things, and paintings and drawings obviously became part of my work. So you know the characters, especially, so it's not that I don't know history, it's just that I didn't read it. So things like Prufrock, Dante, the Iliad, the Odyssey are things that like I learned because we did them on stage, sort of, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, so Oedipus and Lysistrata are clearer to me because like I had to design the set. Godot, very clear to me. You know, as you can tell in the last hour of our conversation. Okay, so answer your own question. Who am I? Who's Charles Kirby right now? Like, who am I casting myself as? Web 3.0,
Well, you're
libertarian.
casting yourself as the successor to the modern quartet of Bezos, Amazon, Sergey Brin and Google, Tim Cook and Apple, and I don't know who the CEO of Netflix is.
It's a guy named Reid Hoffman,
Okay.
but you know,
Yeah.
So Google, Facebook. Okay, so I'm the successor. One problem with that casting that's like probably answered in one of the Iliad or the Odyssey,
Right.
but one problem is that they're my age. They're not that much older than me. So either I'm behind or they were ahead. And I think the differentiator is New York City versus Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley versus Silicon Alley. But I'm not really sure. But I know for a fact that I did not start even realizing XR or decentralization of Web3 or any of that stuff was a thing until like 5 years ago. So that's making me 45. And they're not that much older. They're a little older, but they're not that much older. But Zuckerberg's younger than me. You didn't include Zuckerberg.
Right.
Right. But Sheryl Sandberg is like my age. She's a little older than him. You know. The eBay lady.
That genre's had its share of charlatans as well.
Yeah, but it's also
Who is the woman who was behind Theranos, who always had the
Lizzie,
fake baritone?
Exactly.
Fake female
so
baritone?
that's Gen Y. She's solidly younger than me. She's solidly younger than me.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Yeah,
Lizzie Holmes is her name. Elizabeth
okay.
Holmes is her name.
Yeah, you'd have think they'd known because you just take away the E and it's Thanos.
Okay, we're talking about me though. This is my blog, Mark.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be like if your name was Histler. It's just one letter removed.
Wait, is your coffee? Can I put this here? Okay. Go on.
What about Picasso?
Okay. I quoted Picasso today.
You come in to the center of the artistic world as Picasso did. So the center of the technological world is the Silicon Valley still. Picasso comes from outside. He comes from Spain to the center of the artistic world, Paris. And he synthesizes the entire history of Western art through his career and sets it up so there's nothing left to say in Western art.
I mean, how does Scorsese feel about that? I mean, you're just discounting other art forms. You're again, as you did earlier in the conversation, assuming that my MFA is primary art.
Is in the plastic mediums.
Well, is it? I mean, you're a chemist, you're a physicist, you're a scientist, whatever.
No, I'm not any of those things.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark, what are you?
Unemployed.
Who are you in the in the Iliad? I mean, who are you?
Oh.
No. I take that back.
Maybe I'm Trucer or Ajax the Lesser because people are still fighting to this day if those are two people or one character.
Okay, then who's Charles Carney Kirby II?
Okay. Well, if you're pitching yourself,
No, I'm just
do you see the modern quartet as adversaries or points of status in the evolution of the field?
points of status in the evolution
Okay.
of the field,
So,
but not my peers.
uh-huh,
If I were at a party,
yeah.
I would not, you know what I mean? Like, I just wouldn't, I might not even talk to them. Like, I mean, there's a real chance that I would be like, I can't have my picture taken with them because I'm too much of a libertarian, but yet I'm also a capitalist because I've taken money from people to leverage my company. I can't pretend that sustainable weight loss is what my app's being used for. Oh, because I don't care what it's used for. I do care what it's used for. And it has to align with the UN Sustainable Development Goals of 2030, right? It has to be about sustainable cities. It has to be about heart health. It has to be about something important. I don't know if Bezos or Zuckerberg or any of them say that because they're not my peers, but what I know is that their companies sold to Cambridge Analytica. That I know. They centralized our data. I joined Facebook in order to get Obama elected and find all my high school friends and make sure they knew who he was. Zuck took that data, and then there's a direct line in my mind, and he's younger than I am, so he's Gen Y. He's disrupting elections as I see them, right? He's doing good in a way because he's connecting me with my high school friends on a good count. But he then, through growing older, whatever, sells that to Cambridge Analytica and gets an asshole elected. So he ain't anybody I'm doing fucking business with. So who am I in the character? I mean, in the story, in the Odyssey or Iliad or whatever. Anything. Give me any reference. Because Picasso is too isolated. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that his art isn't applicable. I'm honored to be included in the Picasso. Yeah. If Cindy Cubes is an art, and I've created a 6-sided Pinterest board, then, maybe I'm Picasso. But the difference is I didn't do it alone. I couldn't have done what I just showed you in Cindy Cubes without the software developer that knew Ruby on Rails, without the engineer who was Kim Sun Wong and the Philippines, who I met on Craigslist, made that cube. And it took another team of 2 or 3 or 4 other people with other art and science kind of combinations, like what we call now our engineering team at CindyXR, to get that done. So
if there's a parallel in the arts, would it be more like environmental art, like the Spiral Jetty, or the works of James Turrell?
Yes, I am incredibly versed in the light and combination of space,
because
photons and electrons.
Simple manipulation of light and projection, he creates 3-dimensional illusions like, the famous one, what is it called? Afram Blue. Afram Blue is a very famous projection installation.
Right, but you still have it. Okay, so then who's Turrell in the Odyssey? I mean, I'm trying to parallel it to something I don't know anything about, i.e. literature, so that when my mom watches this, she'll be like, oh my God, that guy you met actually talked about what I know and explained what you do. I'm obviously her better son, so. I say this sitting in Sacramento, you fucking douche.
Roseville. You're actually in Roseville.
Who's Roseville?
That is the town in which you are sitting.
I thought it might be a character in the Odyssey. Can you answer the fucking question, Mark?
No, Roseville was Orson Welles' sled.
That's Rosebud.
So it is.
As opposed to the rosewood trees I sat amongst yesterday.
Yes, or the wood rose buds from which you made tea.
Exactly. Explain to my mom, please.
James Turrell.
Explain to my mom.
Because James Turrell has taken an existing space, the Rodin crater, and he has No, he has organized craftsmen, engineers, architects for this monumental environmental project. I only have a very passing familiarity with it, but
I have no idea what you're talking about.
well, James Turrell bought a volcano.
Okay. Where in the world?
It's in the United States.
Okay.
And it's the Rodan crater.
Wait 1 second. Who's the artist with the big copper curved pieces that you walk amongst?
That sounds like Richard Serra.
Yes, Sarah. Thank you. Right. And Terrell's the one with the light, with the tubes of light.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so Terrell buys a volcano.
Yeah, and he is turning that volcano.
Wait, he's not dead, is he?
No, he's not.
I was just gonna say you're in 2022, right?
But yeah.
I mean, I believe in the z-axis and the space-time continuum, and that we're gonna live forever. But
he's been dealing with that project for at least 40 years, and it is an environmental art installation, the scale of which has never been seen. All other environmental arts,
okay, I'm not Terrell.
you're not Turrell.
No, I'm definitely building boxes of.
Because he's building a new perception on something that's already there. And
Oh, right.
that's kind of
That's okay. Okay, who are his contemporaries? Like, is Coons a contemporary of Terrell? Like, in other words, I could claim to be Terrell, right? We could say Kirby is Terrell if we could say that, I don't know, someone I can't think of the name of is equally just taking things that exist and making cool things out of them. Like I am. Like, I can be Terrell, but I still want to know what's the literary reference. Because, I mean, speaking in art, you're speaking to me, and I appreciate that. But this particular video would be more of, that's why I was telling you about my mom. You brought up, the characters in the Iliad and the Odyssey that I don't even know. So as embarrassing as that is, wait, so you're a writer?
no, I'm not.
You're not a scientist, you're not a physicist, you're not a writer.
No.
I mean, I know you're unemployed, but I'm not asking what your job is. I'm asking what your art is. What's your science? What's your thing? And I'm still playing 20 questions to guess.
Well, although you probably wouldn't believe it, but 45 years ago I was a punk rocker.
Why wouldn't I believe that? What was the name of the band? What was your most successful band?
The band of the same name. But
which is 60s and 70s. So 45 years ago, so it's 2022 now. So
75.
75 in Northern California or Southern?
No, New York.
Oh, in New York.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh my God. So you're talking my language now.
Upstairs at Kansas City Max's.
Sure. Okay. I've sat on the floor there.
Yeah.
With Blues Travelers, Spin Doctors, and you know what I mean, a number of other bands. Okay, so the band that has no name, what was it called?
The band that had the band of the same name.
The band of the same name, and how many members?
6.
And you, what role did you play?
I played bass.
You played bass, and do you still play?
Occasionally.
Did you bring it to the hotel?
No.
Not that much. Okay, but it's at home.
It's actually in storage right now.
Okay. That's a metaphor.
Yeah. That's true.
Okay, so I believe.
But I would pick.
Wait, but where did you go to college?
Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
And then the band hit the road, and you guys ended up at CBGB's.
Beforehand, before I between high school and college.
Nice. Your parents are amazing. I mean, 2 French immigrants. I'm just saying they let you do a gap year, basically, right? That's not common in your generation.
I guess.
Maybe they didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, they might have they're the greatest generation, right? Because you got upset with me the other day earlier today when I called you the greatest generation. So
they actually were probably the quiet generation. The one
I don't know what that means.
The quiet generation is the one.
Oh, that's like the sandwich generation, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like how
between the greatest generation
yeah.
and the boomers.
Right.
You know,
right. But how do you identify? I mean, you're a punk rocker, so you must skew young. So you're solid boomer. Whereas your younger sister could be the quiet generation. She skews older, from what I can tell.
You know, I think it depends on, like, I'm the oldest.
Right.
So I might even be able to be like the elder statesman of X.
What is that?
Well,
what's the elder statesman of Gen X?
Gen X.
Oh, okay. You're relating you to me.
Yeah.
For 100%.
Yeah.
I'm 52. How old are you?
62.
Okay, so you just look older.
Yeah.
But you probably always looked older. I'm sure at some point somebody was like, "Where'd you find the bass player?" Like, you know, "Oh, we picked him up at the hospital."
Yeah.
Not that that's anything wrong with that, but like, you know.
Yeah.
But
Well,
okay, so you're.
so
Like,
my-
well, I'm just saying the girls that you
it's
could
like-
pick up after the show were into older guys.
Yeah.
Let's just go with that. Okay.
And you know, most people from the outside, they only look at punk rock and see the nihilism, but what they actually don't realize is that punk rock was a society without caste, because the only thing that mattered was the music. And it was the deviations of that purity that killed Sid, but rescued Joey, Johnny, Tommy, and Dee Dee from being retrobates who spent their lives in prison.
Where did you live in the city?
125th and Morningside.
In a flop house with the other five guys, or like in real life, like with
I lived in a 6th-floor walk-up, 2 rooms.
by yourself though.
Yeah.
Like you guys were, and how long were you in the city? 10 years or something?
Oh no, 3.
But it's indelible, right? I lived on Canal and West Broadway between undergrad and grad. And so, you know, it's just like unbelievable how it feels like I was there for 10 years.
Yeah,
But time gets shorter. Isn't that isn't that Einstein's whole thing? Is that time gets shorter?
I would love to go there again with the benefit of, 45 years
Right.
and, really enjoy tea in the cloisters or,
Well, why don't you come?
because I'm broke as a stoke. It's my thoughts on New York and Manhattan in particular is if you had the money, interest, inclination, and stamina, you could do something new, different, vital, and interesting every single night of every single. Yeah.
So the greatest city in the world is also the most expensive city in the world, besides Singapore, Dubai, what I mean? Like,
it's
right.
very expensive.
Right, sure. No, but you're lucky to be in Northern California because, to be honest with you, it gets fucking cold in New York. And as you know, if you don't have a door to go in, you end up it's cold. Whereas tonight, I'm at the Hilton because last night I used my Hilton points to stay. But tonight, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to walk out that door and, get and sleep on my cot in the parking lot just because I don't think Hilton deserves the points. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not, I don't even want to spend the points on it. It's not even worth the bed. I have electricity. And it's fucking Roseville, California. Like, why not? I'd rather be outside than inside.
So
it's not about money.
it wasn't about money.
Right. You were in the city. You played. You left.
If all you want to do is make a lot of money, you can make a lot of money.
Yeah, oh no, absolutely.
I mean,
if you're keeping score by the greenbacks, then
if
you just do that.
If you can
100%.
learn to view your fellow humans as cattle to be milked, slaughtered, bought, sold, and bred as the need arises, then you can make a lot of money.
Right. And all of my friends that took their Series 7, and became brokers in 1994, 5, 6 are the people that I go and crash with when I want to come to Northern California, when I want to go to Napa Valley or New York City.
And the charitable donations they send to famine relief in Africa goes to grinning warlord who wears a necklace made of human finger bones.
How do you really feel?
I think that there's a lot of well-meaning people who have flawed applications because they cannot conceive of the depths to which some of their fellow humans will go.
Or they do know, and they do it on purpose.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's the old thing about, it may be apocryphal, but the story of a person who's panhandling on the street, and then goes to a BMW or a Lexus to drive home. They actually make money plying on other people's sympathies. And so that's when people become jaded.
A particular museum?
Yeah, it was actually the modern. It was the at the time it wasn't the Anderson Building, but at the time is where they housed the modern art wing at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art.
Okay.
And
What is plastic art?
the plastic arts would be painting, sculpture, ceramic.
Oh, okay.
Typically, they're the mute arts by which the artist creates the visual dialogue with the viewer by the art. So Jasper Johns is painting on his acrostic. He's painting his black, green, and orange flags.
Right.
Because those are the complements of red, white, and blue.
Right.
And if you stare at them and then close your eyes, the after image will give you a red, white, and blue flag. So,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, so Jasper Johns is playing with a color contrast, which was identified by Johannes Itten in the 1920s.
I read that book.
Yeah.
That was required reading for my color theory class at Syracuse in 1991.
So the seven
I still have
contrasts of color, contrast of value, contrast of extension, all that.
Right.
And Jasper Johns is playing with that contrast
Right.
of
Rothko.
Right.
Right. Yeah. The closing. Okay. All right. So I can close my eyes. Okay. All right. So. Okay. Wait.
And so-
what are you doing here, Mark?
So-
and do you want to just come with me to Burning Man? Like, let's just get the fuck out of here.
No, I have stuff to do. I have to go at the house.
I know. Well, then let's go to. I'll go fix up the house. Fuck the insurance companies, man.
It'll be interesting because what the insurance companies are trying to do is tack on multiple deductibles because there are multiple sources of water, so they want to open a claim for each one. And while I barely have enough money to cover one deductible, I have a better chance of dating a 19-year-old avant-garde. Absolute epiphany, a transfixed, honest-to-goodness change of life experience in front of one painting. And I said, I want to learn how to do that.
Oh. What painting?
The painting is called Young Woman of the People, and it was painted by Amedeo Modigliani in, I think, 1920.
Do you know how Modigliani is connected with cinema? It's kind of cubist, right?
Well, I think Modigliani is more influenced by the Mannerists. He has the...
No. He's influenced by the Mannerists, but essentially, in broad terms, he's cubist, right? Like, I mean, he
did do Cubist, but his coming after, Cubism ate itself out from the inside out.
Right.
Picasso, Braque, and Juan
But
Gris.
did you know? But what I'm asking is, did you know that Cubism and cinema were like essentially the same thing? There's a whole theory that like you're late because if you're looking at like women descending the stairs or something like that, right?
Right.
And you're looking at it from like a film point of view.
Yeah, Duchamp,
Nude descending the stairs, right? Exactly. So if you look at that from a film point of view, you can say that each one of her positions is a frame, and therefore that's movie making.
Yes.
So it's a primary artist. So here's my point I was trying to make before. It's a primary artist trying to do what's as cool as what a filmmaker is doing.
Yeah. Although, you know, when Duchamp is painting that particular image, I think moving film is less than 20 years old.
Right, but that's where the Lumiere brothers are
Right.
relevant. Duchamp had seen it.
Yes.
He's just saying, oh, well, the connection with Impressionism or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's essentially the same reason that, like, Sargent stops painting portraits, because we have a camera now. So why would I paint a picture of George Washington? I'll just take a picture of him. And now, by the way, we're going back because Photoshop makes things like this, you know, actual of you look like paintings. And I can make you look like an oil painting. I can make you look like a
watercolor.
I can do it. I mean, I can just. I mean, fucking Instagram just has filters, and you just and we just make you look. I can make you look like African American. I mean, I can make you look like you know what I mean. Like I can do whatever I want, and that's where. Some might say that art is.
That's the manipulation of the plastic imagery.
But it's by using a binary code.
Yeah.
And that's what actually is part of the problem that I just learned about in the woods.
The box is saying yes and no billions of times a second.
Right. So I's and O's and just like kind of printers, pieces of paper in the fucking printer and hidden figures and all that shit is basically, have you seen that movie, Hidden Figures?
No.
It's a good one. It's about Glenn and those guys getting on the moon and the women that were in a room doing the math to figure out where he had to land and how he would get back. And on the door of the room, it says computers. But in the room, it's women with, just calculate. They're they're the ones doing the computation. Anyway, it's a good movie. So, like I said, I don't read. I just, you know what I mean? Like, so anyway, the connection between, and Duchamp on one thing is basically the difference between what I would describe as a secondary or a tertiary art form. In other words, an art form that takes more than one person.
Well, Cubism was the plastic manipulation of forms in space through time.
Right, exactly.
The repetition.
But wait, okay, so Mark, connect for me you really are Gen X. You really are. You really are you're my contemporary. You just don't look it.
If I had an older sibling, I have a very good friend who's almost within 30 days, he's the same age as I am. And his path was more of a boomer, and I think it's because he had an older sibling and I do not.
Right. And you also didn't go to college with your peers. You went after you did the band.
Yeah.
So you came back. I mean, I'm sure we could, find your story online. And you all should find his story online. What's your last name?
Kramer. Just like Jerry and Elaine's friend.
Is that how you feel about yourself?
No, but I used to work the night shift when that show was on, and it was like a big surprise.
Not to you, though.
Well,
wait, what's not the night shift? What did you say you used to work?
The night shift.
What's that? Oh, you mean like you worked at night?
I worked at night, so I didn't watch primetime television.
In my brain, the night shift was like a club like Max's Kansas City. The question is, how is the plastic art, how is cinema? I mean, it's actually a plastic. So the fact that now that we make it with binary code, right, with this with this thing, that it's not killing the dolphins or whatever, right? We're no longer throwing cinema into the water. I just heard about a Internet Archive project sponsored by Filecoin, the Filecoin Foundation, that is like, just giving a new machine to an amazing person named Megan, her husband, whose name I can't remember, who are digitizing, every movie in 6K so that we can have a really high-res version of every movie. And part of me is like, cool, good for you. And then part of me is like, okay, how much money do you have to make in crypto to just throw, like Filecoin's a cryptocurrency. They're just throwing money at what is essentially stuff that maybe ought to just be, that we used to dump in the ocean. Right? Cinema, the actual plastic.
The actual
stuff.
celluloid.
Right. So in a way, thank God we've, changed things. Thank God we're filming with this camera.
We've lost half of the film that was made before 1930.
Right, but I'm saying also we're saving the earth by not making movies and telling stories on plastic anymore. How does that relate to the plastic art that day you were in the museum? I mean, it does. It must somehow, right?
No, Modigliani was more influenced by the importation of African art and the elongation
No. I mean for
feature.
you.
For me,
I get that. I meant for you, from a Mark Kramer point of view.
For me,
What's up with that?
seeing that particular painting was stunning. It was a noble and honorable portrait of a woman from the lower social caste. And there isn't much of that because it was honest and showed genuine hardship. Like if you go back to like Bruegel, all of those serfs who were tied to the land and essentially owned by the
That's the
seigneurs.
coin guy with the high relief stuff.
Yeah.
Bruegel, right? Yeah. Okay.
Bruegel.
Yeah.
Elder and younger.
Yeah. I always connect that to the scene at the top of the Parthenon. You know, like I don't know. Maybe if that was like because the art history class taught it back to back at Syracuse. I'm not sure. But okay, so Modigliani that day though interests you in the plastic arts.
Yeah.
Don't you see how that's over? Like, don't you see how that's old? Like how plastic is bad now? Like the bags aren't even allowed in the deli anymore. You know what I'm saying?
This is not plastic material made from dead dinosaurs.
I know, but I'm saying like, what does it have to do with where we are now? Like, what are you doing now? Because I mean, I get that you're down on your luck or whatever, but your art is still your art, and you're not a physicist and you're not a chemist, but you obviously have, similar to me, the sort of art and science. Like I told you, I practice the art and science of collaboration. So what do we do? What are you? I mean, you're unemployed. Okay,
Yeah.
I get that, but those are just capitalist, sort of, things. What are we going to do together, Mark? We're going to live for a while. So what are we going to do? Neither of us have kids in our lives. Neither of us need anything except for to live. So what are we going to do? What are we, literally? What do you want to do?
What do I want to do is bring easel painting back to a position of prominence in American art and dethrone a lot of the frauds.
Okay.
Whatever their talents at self-propagandizing.
Okay, all right, but that's like yelling into an imp. That's like the whole yelling into a tunnel thing. Like, I mean, that's an admirable thing to do. I'm not discounting your interest in bringing easel painting back, but to discount the front. But it's not going to actually out the Kardashians as fake job people, like your sister said. Do you know what I mean? Like, so. Yeah. So it's okay. Okay, so that's what you want to do.
And when you consider, like, I think the most dynamic and creative artist right now in the world is a photographer.
Who's that?
Cindy Sherman.
Okay.
Yeah. I call it's like if I were to reduce famous women to stylized portraits of their pudenda, I'd be called a sexist. Judy Chicago is called a genius.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, that's like me. Right. I can't say, you know what I mean? Like, post Me Too. There's a whole lot of stuff that Louis C.K. could do in his stand-up routine that Charles Kirby can't. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and not because I'm afraid of being canceled, but because people. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, just people. Like, I'm a big white guy. Do you know what I mean? So.
Oh yeah.
But okay. All right. So to wrap this up,
I did amateur stand up also. So
nice. I'm not an amateur, Mark. Don't insult me.
Well, I was an amateur.
I am. No, I am also.
Because it is tough. I found myself I actually went to open mic nights at clubs in San Jose and Sunnyvale because like stand up.
Yeah.
And
part of my journey across the country.
I got a lot of respect for anyone who can actually make a living at it, because I found myself working 20 hours a week trying to hone down my 6 or 8 minutes,
right.
To get on. And you want to edit your material, you go, if I could, I'd have gone on after Richard Pryor, because anything I got a laugh with after him, I knew was gold. And I could get rid of, it might be, I could only get 1 minute of laughs out of an 8-minute set, but I knew that 1 minute was worth everything. So I would always follow the comics that no one else wanted to. But I had one. This is a few years.
What work?
Well, in an office, you cannot escape using a desktop.
Okay, so somewhere after you were in a punk rock band and before now, you worked in an office.
Yes.
Which one? Where?
Well, I worked in Southern California and Northern Calofornia.
Okay, and what was your? What mostly were you hired for? What was your like? What was your value add? Not your title or anything shit like that. Just like what was your value add? What are you good at?
I'm good. You know how some people are good at playing Rachmaninoff concertos?
Yeah.
Can you imagine my horror when I realized that what I'm good at is estimating sheet metal and machined assemblies?
I can imagine your horror. Yes, sir.
So companies.
Okay.
So the companies like Cisco need a metal box to put.
Right. I get you. Okay. All right.
And I worked at companies that made those metal boxes.
Okay. All right. Wait. Do you know the story about Lisa, the Steve Jobs box that was fake that had nothing in it?
Yeah.
That's what that just reminded me of. It like he presented it as a black box. This was when he was usurped at Apple, and he presented it as just a black box. Maybe one of your companies made that black box for him.
Yeah,
but that's very real.
We did like panels for, Ascend Communications.
Excuse me, sir. Can you do me a quick favor? Can you close those curtains? Just for the sake of the video, I'm getting this weird glare where I see myself. Oh my gosh, you are my favorite. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. We would.
So you made the metal.
When you say the black box, I think of that one episode of the IT Crowd where the two technicians want to embarrass their non-tech savvy boss, and they give her a black box with a red light on it.
Wait, what show is this? What is it?
It's called the IT Crowd.
I don't know that one.
And they say, "This is the internet." And it's like, it's so light. Well, the internet doesn't weigh anything.
Right.
It's all light. It doesn't weigh anything.
Gotcha.
And they do it as a prank to embarrass her in a talk, but...
So, Mark Kramer and I have been talking for 4 hours? No, a long time.
Well, yeah.
A good, wonderful long time.
Yeah.
And he's mentioned a number of quotes and literary references that go over my head. So I am now going to give Mark Kramer the opportunity to say the old fairy quote, the one about magic and technology, and there was another one in between, a couple.
Yeah.
Just simply say the quotes so that I can cut this together later at a later date, and then you have to tell my mother, Nancy Kirby, eye to eye as if she was sitting here, what character am I in some story that she's read?
I see.
Please.
Okay. So the first question was regarding Edmund Spenser's The Fairy Queen and the secondary realm. And my question was, does the next generation of the web represent the medium to which one can enter the secondary realm?
And what was the quote?
The quote from Arthur C. Clarke is that a sufficiently advanced level of technology is indistinguishable from magic. Now, when I was a kid, for me, that magic was watching a television program from the moon.
Okay, wait. But that's not actually the quote I meant.
Okay,
There was a quote when we first met where I said something about decentralizing insurance companies, and that hit a nerve with you. And you then said something about the old, like the fairy queen.
The Fairy Queen is Edmund Spenser's epic poem of high fantasy.
Oh, so the magic quote and the reference earlier in the conversation are actually the same Edmund Spenser, 17th century something or other.
Well, no, the quote, the Edwin Spencer, and then the quote was Arthur C. Clarke later in the conversation. And the one I found you here was the amplification of the eternal present is the technology of desire. And should I tell you where it's from?
Yes, please.
It's a song lyric written by Chris Butler and performed by a group called the Waitresses in 1980, I think.
And what about Cindy XR and My Life led you to think that? Like, what was the think of that?
Because I think that at what you were explaining to me is how we live in the eternal present. There is no past, there is no future, there is simply the eternal present. And the past you cannot alter, and the future you cannot remember. Immanuel Kant.
Of course, I knew that one.
Okay.
I didn't. But I understood your thought process. I think you're wrong about that being connected to the metaverse, but go on. But that's because you don't own any computational devices.
Any devices. No, right. I own a slide rule. That's a computational device.
Fair point. Fair point. I stand corrected. Do you use your slide rule a lot?
Sometimes, yeah. Okay. When I have to manipulate a lot of numbers.
All right. About as often as you play your bass?
Yeah.
Okay, so go on. So you were thinking about
and I was thinking how it was how what you're attempting to do in the metaverse is an amplification of the eternal present, and then I just remembered that lyric.
Right. And then there was another point in the conversation where we tried to determine what was such advanced technology that it would seem like magic. And I'm gonna just conjure up the avatar of your sister. Yeah. So what do you think of now that I know that you don't?
When I was a kid at age 8, it was seeing a television program from the moon.
Yeah. But just
Today, I think it's being able to 3D print organic material.
Right, like an ear.
I've
seen that. I've done that. I mean, not done it, but yeah.
But
agreed. And Gina, just to cover Gina. Kramer? No, anyway, we appreciate that you refuse to appear on camera. We respect your position as a musician and a therapist and also Mark's sister. And we recognize in this particular aspect of the conversation that you made a great point, which was that the iPhone is something that basically is such advanced technology that it seems like magic. But because I know how it's made and I know how the development works in the app stores and all that stuff, don't see it as magic. So that's slightly interesting. And now to end this amazing conversation with a couple really cool human beings that I met at the Hilton, I am going to make Mark Kramer talk to my mother.
Well,
Nance?
Outside of Odysseus and the characters that he interacts with, like Polyphemus and Circe and Penelope, all of the other male characters end up getting eaten by Scylla or turned into pigs by Circe, or getting eaten by Polyphemus.
That sounds fantastic for the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Yeah. But so maybe I'm not male.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm cis male, but I could be re-identifying, right? We understand that enough.
Okay.
You have
Circe was an agent of change.
What makes you think I have to be a guy? You said.
I see you as I see you now.
Right. But I'm in the metaverse. I'm genderless.
Okay.
Cindy, actually, I told you, Cindy's an acronym for Seamless Integrated Dynamics, but the characterization that Cindy embodies is actually a human genderless bot.
Okay.
So, like, Cindy's YouTube channel, our YouTube channel, will launch a collaboration show. Have you ever heard of The Medical Futurist?
No.
He's this amazing guy, of course, driven by some big pharma, sponsored by some big pharma company, but basically this sort of Denmark, Netherlands, Swedish dude who, just has a YouTube channel that's amazing because he's just talking about, like, the future, the medical future, like, in a way. So anyway, I want to steal his idea and talk about, like, the predictive analytics of collaboration for everything that we do, like teams at work, you know what I mean, like building buildings and, sustainable weight loss based on team play. Parent alienation on, I told you the story about my children, right?
Right.
I want to use the metaverse to keep families together when they just don't feel like living in the same house.
Okay.
So hang on one second. My mom's calling. She's watching this live, and she's like, I see you're with a really smart guy who reads a book a lot more than you do, Charles. Can you please just ask him to parallel you to a book that I've read? Because I'm Nancy. I'm 78 years old. I live in Princeton. I'm single and, very happy and yet read a lot. And yet my son's new career confuses me. Can you help me?
Think of him not as a character, but as a premise. Consider the book To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee.
I've seen that play.
And the overriding theme of that book is how the journey of the gentle thread of grace and dignity that weaves its way through the human tapestry will always make a difference, even though that is represented by multiple characters in the book, whether it's Atticus or Scout or Boo or even Bob Ewell.
So like you said about Terrell, I'm not buying a volcano or playing with light. I'm just moving a rock up a hill and waiting until it just starts rolling down the other side by itself.
Now you're channeling Camus in the myth of Sisyphus.
Right. But it's not that but often that whole idea of, burning up as he approaches the sun or whatever that is, I feel that is often said to entrepreneurs and founders under the auspice of like, this is really hard, whatever. But like what you just said made me feel like To Kill a Mockingbird is a thing, it's an object, it's a device, but it's also time. So there's a resistance factor, whatever that might be. It's not going to be gravity because it's the metaverse. So though my sustainable weight loss, like if that's the sustainable development goal as far as the UN defines them for the next, for 2030, okay, or sustainable cities or something like that, gravity's relevant, you know what I mean? Like, so the metaverse includes, in my book at least, what we call FR, physical reality. So if there's virtual reality, VR, and there's augmented reality, AR, then there has to be PR, physical reality. But PR is taken by public relations, so you can't be PR. So we call it Cindy FR. So we're seamlessly integrating the dynamics of physical reality with virtual reality by using augmented reality.
Well, unfortunately, when people say CRT, I think cathode ray tube because I have an old television.
Right. But what do they really mean?
Combat results table, which is what they used for war simulations from the Rand Corporation. Yes, I can't think of another possible meaning for those three initials.
Do you think you helped my mom?
I don't know, because I didn't identify a character.
But maybe it's not.
Maybe you're trying to be Samson Shalito from A Fine
No.
Madness.
I stop you right there. I am not trying to be anything.
Okay.
I am being.
Okay.
So it's an honor to be called a movement, and it's probably just kind of too simple to be called a character.
Mm-hmm.
You just were talking about things in the Odyssey and the Iliad, and that made me think about my mom, and thinking, oh my God, this guy who I met at the Hilton tonight could offer my mom a literary parallel.
Yeah.
But what I think what's happened to you is that the metaverse is so questionable from its boundary. There is no precedent of what we're creating. So there is no way to describe what Ruben Steiger and Charles Kirby and all of the other metaverse, sort of Second Life kind of digital twin, Dan Mapes and Orion Barr and all of us that are building this thing are building. Whoever they are, everybody, and I didn't even name any of the women, which is embarrassing. But Linda Ricci and God, you know what I mean? Like, Nene Tan and Nicole Bradford and Joanna Popper. We are building something that's similar to the beginning of the cotton gin and the combustible engine, and so it is indescribable by previous things. I just thought my 80-year-old mother might learn something from you, Mark, but obviously you failed.
Ignatius Riley.
Who is Ignatius Riley?
He's a character from a book called The Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole.
You think my mom's read it?
I'll bet you $1 she's read it.
I don't have $1, so.
I have $1, but I really can't lose it.
It's been a pleasure. No, my God, thank you. And you're welcome.
Yeah.
Mark Kramer, everybody. Roseville, California. Upwards and onwards to the right, my friend.